3 Texas state parks. Hi, I'm Jim from RV4x40.com.
And I'm Chris. Welcome to our home today. We have just thoroughly enjoyed spring break camping with our daughter, her husband, and their 3 children, 2 13-year-olds and a 10-year-old. We've had a wonderful time sharing meals and sitting around the campfire in the evenings, and beautiful, beautiful parks and enjoying nature.
Yes, this has been a tradition of ours now for several years. For one thing, our daughter has set a goal for their family of visiting all of the Texas state parks before the 2 older twins graduate from high school. So they're approaching that point. They're about 2/3 of the way through, if I know the count right, but there's still several more to go to. So we got a couple of new ones, and this one today is a repeat. We started off at Brazos Bend State Park. It's on the Brazos River, and it's one of the nicer parks. It's fairly new. I think it looks new anyway because it was damaged with the hurricane a couple of years ago, and they've rebuilt parts of it. But it has very flat roads. They're paved. They're nice for bicycle riding around, and then there's a lot of trails to walk, which is always something, of course, you want to do in the state park. After that, we went to Spring Creek State Park. Spring Creek or Spring Valley? I forget the name of it right now.
Creek.
I have to
Creek,
check that.
I think. I think it's Creek.
Okay, she thinks it's Spring Creek. You know, frickin' frack here. We'll see how this goes. Anyway, the second park was a much older park in terms of when it was laid out. Very small park, very nice park. It had a nice creek flowing through it that was used for canoeing and kayaking and fishing, although there was a sign there that said, don't eat the fish. I'm not sure why you'd fish that creek. Now we are at Stephen F. Austin State Park, which is at San Felipe, Texas, which is really right next door to Sealy, Texas on I-10, so you're very close to the freeway. But San Felipe was the first settlement that Stephen F. Austin put together and put settlers into when he was taking over really what was then the Mexican wilderness that is now the state of Texas. So he, of course, was responsible for bringing a lot of settlers into the state and establishing it when what became eventually a separate independent country and then was absorbed into the United States later on. So we've had a good time. We're going to show you a little bit of the highlights, a little bit of the video about driving through the parks, and we'll see you on the other side. Every trip has to start from somewhere, and we're starting from our favorite RV park in Georgetown, Texas. So we're going to pull out and loop around and then get ready to leave. Rather than hook up where our site is, we typically go through the park and get to the entrance exit driveway, and then we'll pull out from there once the Jeep is hooked up and everything is checked out to make sure it's properly connected. We've got a several-hour trip to get to the park. Our first stop is Brazos Bend State Park. Of course, we are in the state of Texas and exploring 3 different parks this week. We've made reservations, and so there's just a brief stop at the entrance to pick up our tags for the RV and for the Jeep and get a map, and we proceed on down to find our campground, our campsite. And this particular park is quite a ways from the entrance down to where the actual RVs are parked, about 3.5 miles if I remember right. So it takes a while to traverse this park to get to the end you're going to be staying in. The accommodations in the various parks will vary in size and easy getting into. It's quite often you'll have a back-end site, which this particular one happens to be. We'll see one pull-through site, at least one former pull-through site when we get later on in the trip. But here we just back the RV into the site, and Chris, of course, is on the radio helping guide me in to make sure I don't hit trees or run the coach into something we don't want to hit. The beauty of being in a state park, or any other park for that matter, is the variety of things you can see. In this particular park, there's a lot of wildlife. There are birds, and this is a cormorant of some kind. And there are alligators around here. You're cautioned not to get within 30 feet of them. However, the alligators don't seem to recognize the rules, and they're right along the pathway. So we passed this big guy who's got his eye out in the water looking for something else. And hard to see in this picture, but there is a nest of young alligators that's fairly recently hatched. And here's a couple of their bigger brethren already out in the wild on their own, looking for their meal. And of course you'll find birds, and this is swamp territory, so you'll find all kinds of different seafood eating birds. And this is a observation tower. It shows you the lay of the land, so to speak, around this part of the park. And it consists of some forest and a lot of marshland, as well as grassland and some lakes. So this panoramic view gives you kind of a flavor of what the park actually looks like in all of its different sections. So we're off to the next park on our list, which is Village Creek State Park. And it's down the road just a bit, but we first of all have to get out of our back end parking spot. And we'll pull up beside the Jeep, which has been parked up the road just a bit. And we'll stop, put the Jeep up again, and then we'll be off to tow it over to our next park. We're heading into Village Creek State Park. This one you drive down a residential street, which is somewhat narrow, but it's passable for our 40-foot motorhome, so not a problem to get there. This one is unique, and it has a parking spot on the left-hand side facing the traffic, but you can park here because there's no other place to park a trailer or a coach like ours. So park there, check in, and we're going to drive on down and find our site, which is another back-end site. The creek, of course, is one of the main draws of this particular park, and it is known for kayaking and canoeing, and so the river creek appears to be quite good for that, and people were fishing in it, although I'm not totally sure why, because there was a sign up that basically said don't eat the fish that you might catch in this stream. Leaving Village Creek, we're going to head for Stephen F. Austin State Park. It's in the small town of San Felipe, which is right near Sealy, Texas, on the interstate. And San Felipe was the first settlement that Stephen F. Austin created when he was trying to settle the Mexican wilderness as it was then, and what became the state of Texas after it was the nation of Texas to begin with, the Republic of Texas. You want to go first?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, frickin' frack here again. That's a quick tour through 3 Texas state parks. There are a lot more. I don't even know the exact count. I think it's about 67 parks in the state of Texas. We've been in state parks in other states, and they all have their own particularities, and some of them are good, some of them are not so good. You do have usually a pretty good price in terms of where you can camp. A lot of them are very crowded, and some of them are actually quite small for a rig our size. We got a 40-foot motorhome, as you know, and so we have to pay attention to whether we can get into a site and those kind of things. Some of them do have full hookups. A lot of them don't. They'll have water only, or water and electricity, or whatever. Check out your own state parks, and I'm sure you'll find ones you would enjoy to go to and go back to. As a reminder, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, we would greatly appreciate it if you click that subscribe button down below. And there's a bell icon which will notify you when we post a new video, which we try to do every Sunday night now. And if you're interested in some of the places we have been and some of the pictures you've seen in our videos, there is a website you can go to, and several of those are posted there. And I'll put a link down in the description where you go there. And then there's also our photography website, where if you have something that you've seen in a video that's not on the other site, let us know, and we will be happy to find a way to get you a print of that particular picture. We've been in 49 states in the last 4.5 years, so we've covered a lot of territory and still a lot more to go see.
So I hope you've enjoyed your visit with us today, and we certainly enjoy having you watch our channel. And we wish you the very, very best as you travel the highways of our beautiful country.
That's a quick tour through these.